During World War I in 1920, when blacks and whites fought amongst each other against the Central Power of Europe, they were very segregated. Blacks and whites were often organized in platoons according to their race. During that time, the race system had great conflicting issues with social political beliefs in society. And like the actual accounts of war, the 7 Days has a story to capture the treatment of what African American soldiers were treated like. Like many lynchings back then, blacks were murdered by whites in spite of their races. That's most of the reasons. Which other reasons can be found hard to believe. But the whole story of the 7 Days started back when a private soldier in World War I was brutally murdered after having his testicles severed from him. This action breached the threshold of a new revolution. A revolution that can bring change. A change that would bring justice. One so pure that we can find it contradicting every sense of justice. The 7 Days. 7 Days is a secret organization that believes for every black person that is killed, an equal white person must die without pity as well, regardless of the person's personal life or what they do. It is a duty that must be fulfilled without mercy. This idea of equalizing the population of black-white ratio so the African American race can survive finds a lot of controversy. So to understand this logic, you cannot fathom it with a mere moral or lawful perspective. Instead of perceiving this understanding of a murder as a cult that does death rituals, you have to sink in the thought of this philosophy through a universal perspective, the idea of balancing and sustaining the future generation of blacks, as quoted from Teall. But mistakenly, this profound philosophy of being natural as Teall has spoken of, or being apart from the unnatural whites, is a hard understanding to comprehend with this sophisticated example, the thought of a racial population balance. Teall speaks of the killing of blacks as unnatural, but Milkman argues retaliation of the nature of killing whites is just as unnatural, through vice versa. But really, Teall believes this keeps the balance of the paradigm, rather than seeing as a reality of two deaths. The philosophy that Teall draws from is a very mathematical basis of which a negative and a negative is a positive, and an unnatural and an unnatural is a natural. White death and a black death is the equal loss of generation. In Chapter 5, Milkman insults Hagar of destroying her very womb when she stabs him. This contradicts the purpose of Teall's conservation of black survival, since it destroys their generations without a death of the whites to take its place. So a purpose in keeping the population's balance is met in an unconventional decision. The only solution for this is to be resolved, and is for Hagar to obviously not destroy herself. And of course, for Milkman to understand his act of profanity to the 7 Days principle of preserving the black population, and all of its other regulations that follow with its purpose. But there are many relations of killing through this novel, like the logic in Ruth wanting to kill Hagar, and Hagar wanting to kill Ruth, and the finalized conclusion of Pilot's "Nobody has to die, ever." So to the episode of Ruth and Hagar's argument of Milkman, the women are viciously fighting for him, being one wanting his love or death, and one wanting her motherhood and his security. From Pilot's perspective of how women should be, she believes that women shouldn't have such strong desires and pendants for men as if their lives are jeopardized for men, like when Pilot herself had refused her relationship with the man she loved for her children. Then as things became more negotiable with the women, they came to a conversation about the very topic of killing itself, and its basic philosophy of it, whether it was natural or unnatural.